Hello, this is the Provoked Prawn, and this is the Hyperx Alloy Elite 2. An awesome looking gaming keyboard that, as you can see, sports a really nice finish thanks to those glorious pudding keycaps that allow for a wonderful amount of RGB light bleed. Now this is a gaming keyboard that will set you back around £140. I'd imagine it'd be the same in dollars, and it's compatible with PC, PS4 and Xbox One. And it comes in a few different variants with different key setups, including linear, tactile and clicky. But this is an unboxing of the HyperX variant of the red linear key switches. Those are some interesting, quiet and comfortable switches, obviously let through a lot of RGB light. Now, the HyperX Alloy Elite 2 is an updated variant to the original Alloy Elite, which was a keyboard that I thought was fantastic. It shone for being understated, but still feature rich and easy to use and comfortable to use throughout the day. The Alloy Elite 2 I've been using for a couple of weeks now, and I actually feel like is a really nice bit of kit. A very nicely designed keyboard that looks great and has a number of nice features to it as well. It comes with a solid steel frame, so a nice construction in that way. As I said, HyperX's mechanical switches and pudding keycaps, which allow for that really nice RGB light bleed, but there's a lot more to it than that because there's a lot of customization in the software that I'll show you a bit later on, so be sure to stick with me and see what that's like. And there's loads of customization in there. As you'd expect, you have all the usual things. For example, you will note a dual USB connectivity option at the top there, braided USB cable. That's because there's USB pass-through at the top, so near the top of that plug you have a USB port that allows you to plug in an extra peripheral, say a mouse for example, which is something I've been doing, plugging in there. You also have dedicated media keys that you can see on the right hand side, and on the left, in the top left, you'll see lighting buttons with 3 different profiles and a G key, which again I'll talk to you about at the end because you can customize that in the software. And as standard, a very nice and comfortable keyboard. It has these pudding keycaps that are slightly have a rubberized feel to the top of them, very smooth and comfortable to use for gaming. Not too loud, obviously, with the red linears, kind of quiet. I'll leave all the specifications in the description. As I said, there are other options, but these red linear switches have a 45 gram pressure, a 1.8mm actuation point, and a total travel of 3.8 mils, and they are guaranteed for up to 80 million keystrokes as well. So very nice switches, very comfortable design. The other elements of the keyboard, as I said, include this volume wheel and media control keys, which I really like, a really nice addition. Very solidly built, nicely constructed and satisfying to use, and they look great too. And I really like having dedicated media keys. It seems like something so simple, but it's much nicer than having them built into function keys where you have to press and hold the function button and then press one of the F keys to get access to those. So something simple like that is very nice. The pudding keycaps themselves are ABS material, and as you see around the bottom half, they have that white design to them, and that's a pudding keycap style if you're not aware of it already. It's becoming more common now, you don't see them all the time, but it's a very nice touch on this keyboard. At first, when you get out of the box, it might perhaps make it look a bit cheap. However, once you plug it in and start using it, you'll see just how much light that design lets through in a really nice way that isn't too garish or in your face in a negative way. I really found it very nice. Also has 5 lighting levels in the software. Now, for reference, if you want to hear the keystrokes and what the sound of the actuation sounds like, I'll do a separate video with just that so you can get an idea of that without me talking over the top of it. Here I'm just going to show you what those switches look like up close, and you can see the housing around the outside of it and the LED on the top for lighting up the keys, and easy access to those. Obviously this isn't a swappable board, so you can't swap out your own switches as you could with like the PC Glorious Gaming Race GMMK that I looked at recently, but these are very nice switches. Quiet, there's no tactile feedback, there's linear, fairly quiet design, but comfortable to use, and certainly not loud like blue switches, for example, so perfect for gaming, perfect for streaming. They're not going to be picking up too much noise when you're using them. Found them very satisfying. One thing of note that I'll show you later on as well is that all the buttons on this keyboard can be customized and changed for other buttons as well, so you can change what the switches do. Those top ones, as I said, up here, you've got a lighting button that allows you to switch between 5 different brightness levels, and the second one is a profile switching button, so you can assign different profiles within the software and then you can press that, change between them. And then the G key is a gaming key that allows you to deactivate things like the Windows key, or even things, combinations of keys like Control Shift Escape or Alt F4, things that might close your game down. You can disable them. That's not something I often use, but it might be something you'll choose to use. The spacebar I also thought was well designed. You can see the underside of the keycap here. Again, that white for some reason looks like it might be cheap and flimsy, but it doesn't feel it when you're using it. Also, the way they've stabilised the spacebar works nicely too. It doesn't wobble around on there when you're using it, and it doesn't make an excessive amount of noise either. Nicely designed. I really was impressed with this keyboard actually. When I first got it out, I did feel like maybe some of it was a bit plasticky, but actually, as I said, there's a steel frame, quite a solid steel frame. Unfortunately, it does pick up fingerprints, which you might have noticed already, some of my fingerprints on it, but a very nice looking bit of kit once you got it plugged in. As you can see here with the glorious RGB goodness. Again, it's always hard to do the RGB lighting justice, or at least I struggle with getting the right settings on my camera, but you can see just how much of the wonderful light show you have through it. Now, as standard, when you plug this keyboard in, it basically has 2 lighting modes as default that you can switch between by that profile button. There's this one that's kind of this rainbow color across the entire keyboard, and it just passes back and forth across it and it looks great. And then there's one which is just a solid color. You can, however, customize the lighting and layer the lighting levels on top of each other, so you can create different schemes, and it's per key illumination as well, so you can customize different parts of the keyboard with different colors, and you can layer them on top of each other, which is something that I've seen with the SteelSeries Apex Pro that I thought was fantastic. Apex Pro, this and the Vulcan 122 from Roccat are probably the best in terms of RGB lighting keyboards that I've seen. Really nicely lit, very colourful, customizable and wonderful in that way. And here you can see it's just going through the various lighting levels, and those 2 modes, as I said, just a couple of presses. One basically just changes one solid color on the keyboard, and the other one gives this nice wave of rainbowy goodness floating across your keyboard. Actually really nice, quite striking when it first comes out, but that's just default. Once you get the software downloaded, that's the HyperX Ingenuity software that I'll show you in a second, you can then customize in a lot more detail and on a key by key basis as well. So here you can see it on the right hand side. I'm just showing the left hand side of it because that's mainly where most of the action is, and you'll see you have a number of different settings that include breathing, confetti, swipe, solid, twilight, wave and sun. And again, you can set these and you can see them reacting. They like swipe across the keyboard left to right, but you can also make them go up and down as well, changing the direction on them, which is pretty nice. And you can also layer these, so you could set a base layer of one color, and I'm going to show you that in a minute, or one style, and then put another one on top of it, and you can layer the opacity of it, and you can also select on a key by key basis and change that as well. So it's really nifty in the ways you can customize it. And that was interesting because the original Alloy Elite was something that you could use without software. It was quite no frills, there was no software necessary, and you don't need software to run this one obviously, but if you want to start recording macros and changing button presses and customizing the lighting, then you will need it, and I'd recommend doing it because you definitely get a lot more in terms of the lighting customization once you do it. And you can see here adjusting the direction, the speed and the colors of the different lighting effects too, so you can go up and down instead of left and right, and you can change it between the different colors and the speed that it goes up and down as well, and you can make it go quite quick. Also, point of note here is you'll see there's a lighting bar across the top as well that strikes, so above the function keys and below those top keys. You can see it in the software a bit better than on the video footage, but again, a nice little touch, which I will note that when you're sitting down at your keyboard you don't really notice that because you'd have to be looking straight down upon it, but it adds a sort of extra glow to the keyboard itself. And here you can see that I have customized WASD and R in a different color, so I've set them to white, but I've still got those other wave modes going on, and I've just changed the opacity so you can see it, and then you can delete those profiles and change the lighting, and then you can save it to a certain profile on there and then switch between them with that hardware button as well. So you can set up different lighting for different situations. Perhaps you want a solid one for when you're playing or when you're in Windows just surfing, and then you want another one that's a bit more glorious and reactive when you're getting stuck into your gaming sessions. And the lighting options are quite interesting. The confetti one, for example, not seen anything like this before. It's quite white in the way it works, and it's hard to describe, but hard to do it justice. Well, I think the video is doing it quite a bit justice. I've certainly never seen an RGB lighting mode like that on other keyboards. However, most of the other ones are fairly familiar. Obviously, breathing and solid ones are fairly standard. Being able to set specific keys to a certain colour, I'm often a fan of that, because you can then set WASD or the keys that you use regularly in gaming to a set colour, so you can see them immediately and easily. Now you'll see the other effects, so as well as the standard effects, you can get these reactive effects at the top that are basically reactive presses. So you can see, for example, here you press a button and now this red just spreads out from the keyboard from where you've pressed. Again, this is something standard you see in quite a few different keyboards, that reactive RGB lighting, but it's pretty nice that you can instigate that from there. And again, that can be set up so that you can have two layers. So here I've got swipe running across the keyboard as standard, but if I reduce the opacity of that, you can then see that explosion effect still occurs on top of that as well. So you can mix and match RGB lighting to set it up the way you want it, and I think that's a really nice addition, and not something you see terribly often. Some of the better RGB keyboards do it, and it's nice to see this one doing it as an option too. So obviously the RGB lighting is a big selling point to this keyboard, but another one is the customization of the keys. So as well as RGB lighting, you can also customize and change every key on the keyboard to do what you want it to. So for example, you can change the Windows key, as I have done here. So instead of opening the start menu and doing what Windows key normally does, it automatically launches Task Manager. That's just one option. There are plenty of other options. Another one, for example, you'll note there in the bottom left that you can disable a key. So I actually used it to disable my caps lock key, because I'd never use it and it frustrates the hell out of me when I accidentally caps lock and I'm yelling at people when I don't mean to. If you make any mistakes, you can also go into the software, reset everything to default and revert back to what it was before. It is important to note that you can save things to the memory of the keyboard. You'll note that on the right hand side there's a button to save to keyboard as well, so it's important to do that. And then once you've done that, as I said, you can press that profile button and switch between the different variants of it within there. But the fact that you can customize the keys, including recording macros, you can go in and set up macros fairly simply in here, whether that's button presses, and you'll note all the different things that are going on here, keyboard buttons, whatever you want, you can set that and you can program that to any key on the keyboard. So there's no macro keys as such, but you can set the specific keys to do a macro and do it with ease, and it's really easy. The software is actually very intuitive and user friendly too, and it's really easy even to just go into individually delete elements out of the macro setup that you've recorded too. And again, you can see save to profile and choose between the three different ones. So you've got three different profiles on the keyboard that you can switch between without the software, so that's a really nice touch. All in all, a fantastic keyboard, really good looking, very comfortable and very nice to use. Hope you found this video useful. Be sure to check out the description for all the information you need, as well as links and specs on the keyboard. Thanks for watching. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Hope you found it useful, interesting, hilarious, or all of the above. Be sure to check out the description for other information you might find interesting, and subscribe and watch these other videos as well that I think might be useful to you, and have a great life.